For 9 months, my mother-in-law, Harper, relentlessly compared my pregnancy to my sister-in-law's perfect experience. When my sister-in-law eventually had her baby, both she and my husband made the decision to cut ties with Harper. My husband and I have been happily married for over 4 years, and together for 7. He's truly the man of my dreams, kind, loving, and supportive. We share a beautiful life, and he fits seamlessly into my large Mexican family, where everyone adores him. His respectful nature won them over instantly, and not a single person has ever spoken ill of him. We're a strong team, rarely experiencing conflict, except when it comes to his mother, who has a knack for causing friction. His family, on the other hand, is much smaller. Other than his parents, he has one sister who got married last year. His parents are conservative, small-town Christians, and Harper, in particular, is overbearing and controlling. She insists on family gatherings during every holiday, and if her expectations aren't met, drama inevitably follows. When I first met his family, I bonded easily with his father, William, who is calm and easygoing. His sister, who had been away at college and returned 4 years ago, also welcomed me with open arms, treating me like her own sister. But from the beginning, my interactions with Harper were difficult. When I told her about my career as an environmental consultant specializing in marine conservation, she barely reacted. My father-in-law, however, was impressed. Later, he confided in me that Harper had pressured my husband to break up with me, disapproving of me simply because I was passionate about my career. In her mind, that made me unfit for her son. Harper's old-fashioned ideals dictated that her son should marry someone who would be a traditional housewife, completely ignoring my professional dreams and fulfillment. Luckily, my husband fully supported my career, and our shared values only brought us closer, despite his mother's narrow-mindedness. At one point, my husband made it crystal clear to his father that Harper had no say in his choice of a spouse. This brought me so much relief. His unwavering defense of our relationship confirmed that I had made the right choice in staying with him, even after learning about his mother's disapproval. Unfortunately, over time, Harper's attitude only worsened. She constantly made passive-aggressive remarks, suggesting a proper wife should focus on homemaking and eagerly await her husband's return from work. Harper never hesitated to point out that I didn't fit her idea of a traditional wife. She criticized my appearance and, at times, questioned my ability to have children. At first, I shrugged off her comments, thinking they were jokes, but soon it became clear that she was serious. One evening at a dinner Harper insisted we attend. She went on a rant about how she missed the days when women stayed at home while men worked. My husband immediately pushed back, saying that times had changed and he loved having a partner who contributed equally, both financially and in running the household. Harper, clearly upset by his response, continued her rant about gender roles. Despite William's attempts to calm her down, she insisted she was only speaking her truth for her son's sake. After listening to her long enough, I quietly asked my husband to take me home, and without hesitation, we left. As we did, my husband exchanged a disappointed look with his mother. Later, when William called to smooth things over, I told him plainly that Harper's interference and outdated views weren't something I could tolerate anymore. William apologized on her behalf, but I wasn't ready to let it go just yet. My husband stood by me, making it clear that unless Harper gave a sincere apology, he might cut ties with her for good. This ultimatum seemed to get through to her, and she apologized. I accepted it but made it clear that such behavior couldn't happen again. Although Harper apologized, old habits die hard. Not long after we got married, I had to leave for a few weeks on a research expedition. During my time away, Harper called me, asking who would take care of the house and her son in my absence. I was taken aback by the question, so I put her on speakerphone so my husband, who was driving with me at the time, could hear. When I asked her to clarify what she meant, she accused me of being immature and suggested I quit my job to focus on supporting her son. My husband quickly intervened, firmly telling Harper that he was more than capable of taking care of himself and that our marriage was built on equality. We shared our responsibilities as partners. His response only upset her further, and she argued that our marriage was doomed if I didn't learn to be a proper wife. Frustrated, my husband told her to mind her own business and ended the call. During our engagement, Harper's displeasure had already surfaced. When she found out we were planning a small wedding, she wasn't happy. We were mindful of the costs, especially given the size of my family and our plans to move into our own place soon. I limited the guest list to close family members, with a plan for a larger celebration with extended family later. But Harper wanted to invite all her friends, whom she hadn't seen in years, viewing our wedding as an opportunity for a grand reunion. When my husband asked if she intended to pay for her guests, she was deeply offended, claiming that it was shameful for him to even suggest such a thing as his parent. We stood firm, making it clear that the wedding would stay small and that any extra guests she brought would be her financial responsibility. Despite her protests, she couldn't sway our plans. On the wedding day, Harper continued to be critical, particularly about my choice of wedding gown. I chose to ignore her negativity, determined to enjoy my special day. My sister-in-law, fully aware of the tension, stepped in and made a point to keep Harper away from me throughout the event. Then, in mid-April last year, we got the wonderful news that I was pregnant. Amid all the challenges with Harper, this was a bright moment for us. But when it came time for my gender reveal party, Harper became outraged after discovering that she wasn't involved in the planning. She showed up at our doorstep furious, accusing me of keeping her away from her future grandchild. She demanded that my husband take control of the situation and ensure she was more involved in the pregnancy. Her accusatory tone and the stress it caused were too much for my husband, who firmly asked her to leave. He warned her that if she continued this behavior, she risked being cut out of her grandchild's life permanently. Despite her tearful protests, claiming she only wanted what was best for us, she eventually left. The fallout from this episode was significant. William and Olivia reached out, deeply concerned about Harper's erratic behavior. Olivia, in particular, was shocked and urged me to focus on resting and not letting her mother's actions affect me. While we hoped this incident would be a wake-up call for Harper, her overbearing nature persisted. During the holiday season, when my husband informed her that we wouldn't be able to visit for Christmas due to my inability to travel long distances, Harper was furious. She accused him of distancing himself from his family and abruptly hung up when he refused to change our plans. We thought the issue had been settled, but a week later, she texted, insisting we come to her place. When my husband reminded her of our previous conversation, she called angrily, accusing me of keeping him away from his family and demanding that he control his woman. It was becoming clear that Harper's controlling and toxic behavior was escalating. I discussed everything with my husband and Olivia, who both supported me fully and acknowledged how troubling her actions were. Harper's attempts to manipulate and control were straining not just our relationship, but her relationships with everyone around her. The situation reached a peak when I went into preterm labor at 29 weeks. Our son was born via an emergency C-section at 30 weeks. In the rush, we didn't have time to inform anyone until after the birth. My husband shared the news on our family group chat, which led to a flood of congratulations. However, Harper had a meltdown, bombarding us with texts, furious that she hadn't been in the delivery room. Despite it being clear I would never have allowed that, she felt entitled. I chose not to respond, hoping to avoid further conflict. While I was focused on caring for our newborn, Harper found another reason to complain: our son's name. She claimed it sounded too Mexican and insisted we change it or use it as a middle name. We refused, but her disappointment lingered. When she finally met our son, she ignored his name altogether, using a made-up, special nickname she had chosen for him. Taken aback, my husband immediately asked her to stop and to respect our chosen name. Harper also disapproved of me breastfeeding, arguing it limited her time with the baby. She suggested formula feeding so she could have more interactions with him. My mother, who was staying with us, kindly explained the health benefits of breastfeeding, but Harper stubbornly insisted it was unfair. Her constant interference was becoming unbearable. Things escalated further when Harper demanded a lunch with me to discuss something urgent. After trying to avoid it, I eventually agreed. At lunch, after a few awkward pleasantries, she bluntly asked who would be our son's godparent. Bracing myself for her reaction, I explained that Olivia and I had agreed to be each other's children's godparents. Harper was livid. She burst into tears in the restaurant, loudly insisting that as the grandmother, she had the right to be our son's godmother. She claimed no one else could be trusted to care for him. Despite her dramatic outburst, I stood my ground and told her the decision was final, suggesting she discuss it with my husband if she wished to pursue it further. I later shared the ordeal with Olivia, who was equally upset that Harper didn't want her involved as the godmother. My husband, too, struggled to understand why his mother was acting so irrationally as her behavior continued to strain family relationships. Last week, Olivia gave birth to her daughter. and I was honored when she asked me to be by her side in the delivery room for support. Having gone through childbirth myself, I was more than happy to be there for her. I spent the night at the hospital while my husband and mother took care of our son. After Olivia's boyfriend arrived to support her, I returned home to rest and spend time with my family. During this time, Harper repeatedly called me, but I was too exhausted to deal with her and chose to focus on my son. Later that evening, my husband returned from visiting Olivia and shared surprising news. I initially thought it was about meeting his niece, but he revealed something far more unexpected. Olivia, having had enough of Harper's toxic behavior, decided to enforce a no-contact rule between Harper and her new daughter. When Harper had tried to visit the hospital unannounced, Olivia instructed the nurses to deny her entry, allowing only William to meet the baby. This decision was a bold and significant move, marking a turning point in how Olivia chose to deal with her mother. It was clear Harper's incessant calls that day were likely attempts to seek my help in persuading Olivia to allow her to see her granddaughter. Later, Olivia confided that her decision had been influenced by seeing how Harper had treated me over the years. Establishing a no-contact rule was her way of protecting her daughter from the same toxic influence. This was a watershed moment for Harper, who suddenly realized the full consequences of her actions. She had been completely shut out of her granddaughter's life from the start. It left me reflecting on whether we, too, should consider cutting ties with her permanently. The thought of such a drastic move was difficult, but the idea of protecting our son and maintaining our peace seemed more important. My husband has been incredibly supportive throughout all of this, but it's been a hard realization for him. Growing up in this environment, he hadn't recognized the toxicity until it began affecting me directly. After discussing everything with him and considering all we've been through, we decided that keeping a distance from Harper was the best decision for our family. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary for our mental well-being. We arranged a group video call with Olivia and William to discuss our decision. They understood and supported us, recognizing that we needed to prioritize peace. All that remained was informing Harper of the choice we had made. Yesterday evening, my husband called his mother. As soon as she answered, she began berating him for the lack of communication and demanding to see our son. My husband waited patiently for her to finish before calmly explaining that he was now stepping up to protect his family. Harper was initially pleased, thinking this was the kind of authority she had always wanted him to exert, but her satisfaction turned to shock when he clarified that his way of protecting us meant cutting her off completely to shield our family from her toxicity. Initially, Harper was stunned, struggling to comprehend the gravity of my husband's words. When the reality of our decision sank in, she became desperate, threatening to come over, insisting nothing would stop her from seeing her grandson. My husband firmly warned her that if she showed up uninvited, we would call the police for trespassing. Harper then turned her anger on me, accusing me of orchestrating the entire situation and tearing the family apart. My husband countered her accusations, making it clear that the decision was his. He reminded her that Olivia had also chosen to distance herself for the same reasons, pointing out that the problem lay with her behavior. Harper, refusing to accept responsibility, continued her tirade, accusing me of brainwashing her children and alienating them from her. As my husband's frustration grew, he told her that if she was looking for someone to blame, she should start by reflecting on her own actions. Her bitterness and discriminatory attitudes had driven everyone away. Finally, he told her that everyone had grown tired of her negativity and toxicity. With that, he blocked her number, cutting off all communication. It wasn't a decision made lightly, but it was necessary for our family's well-being. After my husband's decisive conversation, I followed suit and blocked Harper's number as well. I informed my family about the situation, advising them not to engage with her for the time being. It's a tough reality for my husband and Olivia, losing the support of their mother, but we're relieved to be free from her constant drama. It's been 3 months since this all unfolded, and I'm happy to report that our son is thriving. Olivia and I have grown even closer, and our children enjoy regular playdates. Watching their bond develop is heartwarming, and I treasure the thought of them growing up as best friends. In even more exciting news, Olivia is preparing to marry the father of her child, and we're all looking forward to celebrating her upcoming wedding. As for Harper, our decision to maintain no contact remains unchanged. For those concerned about our safety, we've taken precautions, including installing security cameras and changing our locks, ensuring Harper cannot disrupt our peace. Given how widely known the reasons for our estrangement are, it's unlikely she would risk a public confrontation. especially now that the scrutiny from others is likely weighing on her. Despite our boundaries, Harper attempted to use William to reconnect, urging him to mediate a reconciliation. However, even William has reached his limit with her. He shared his own frustrations, and for the first time, it seemed to spark some introspection on her part. A few weeks after their discussion, Harper expressed, through William, a desire to apologize for her actions toward me. While it's hard to know if her remorse is genuine, we've chosen to maintain our distance and continue living our lives without her involvement. William and other supportive family members visit regularly, ensuring our son is surrounded by love and stability, free from unnecessary drama. This peaceful setup is exactly how we plan to move forward.